Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and as you guys may know, there is a new Banlist set has dropped, which means it's Drytron time, baby. All the Ishizu cards, all the tier limit cards are gone, which means that we can play Drytron completely fine. The only problem is a little bit of some bestials, but other than that, I think that this deck actually has a pretty decent chance this format. So here up on the screen right now, I have Ishizu Drytron. So I've been thinking about this list, but unfortunately, obviously, the Ishizu cards just pair better with the tier limit cards, so obviously they're just better in that deck. But yeah, here is the list. I really just kind of came up with this. It's not really super tested or anything like that. This is just completely theory. So I did want to give you guys a decent idea of like what you can do with this deck and where you can maybe go with something like this. Also, there's going to be plenty of Drytron deck profiles coming out this week, every single weekday this week, except for the day that I'm going to be streaming. But yeah, I'm going to be streaming hopefully on Wednesday some Master Duel stuff if you want to drop by. But let's go ahead and get into the list. So there's not really anything that stands out as far as like Drytron names. We're on a relatively low count, 15 names, 18 if you count the prosperities. That's just because there's a lot of consistency with this deck in the form of pre-prep. Realistically, you don't really need to see a ton of Drytron names. You really just want to see pre-prep, Ben 10, or the prep, which gets you there. So this is like plenty. This combo is fine. It gets you like so many negates, and then if you just pair it with like any Drytron name, then you're like just set to go. We also have a really cool card in Choju, which comes out this week in Photon Hypernova, so I'm super hyped about this. It's gonna be super cool. He's also basically just another copy of pre-prep, which is insane, especially if you pair it with something like Drytron Nova. And if you don't have like anything else in your hand, you could just like Nova, summon Link Rebuild, tribute it, and then just search for these, which is insane. So you would just need like any other way to get to Ben 10 and like you're set. Honestly, I don't even think that that's the best way to do the combo, but you get the idea. Is you can just tribute over like Link Rebo and then just get 2 free searches. And the insane thing is that you don't have to like pre-prep how you're restricted into searching for the same like spell. You could just search for like Ben 10. So you could just like search Ben 10 and then like the Dawn, and then you can, you know, tribute whatever Drytron to summon the Ben 10 and then search Diviner, or sorry, not Diviner. That's not a good idea. Search the Perfection, you know, like you have some things that you can do there. So it's definitely not like a bad list at all, especially because you can pair it up with stuff like the Kelbeck, the Agido, the Mudora. You don't have to play all of these. If you do want to cut some stuff, I would probably recommend just cutting the Agido and the Kelbeck, maybe side them. You could. But yeah, I mean, I still think that they're pretty decent cards. You could still try them out. Maybe they're not amazing, but you can also do something like that. As you also may have noticed, we've cut Diviner from the list because there's not really a whole lot of point if we're trying to summon Choju. So we've also put Manju in the list, which means that we have access to rank 4s in the form of Chaos Valk. We can use our Ben 10 to search Chaos Valk, which means we have access to rank 4s in the form of Dweller or Baguska. So if you have a really hard time against a certain matchup, you can just summon like a Baguska. So I think that that's pretty cool. I don't think that there's really a whole lot else I want to talk about in this list. Maybe the double Medionis. I mean, if Kastir is banishing cards from your deck with the Mind Hacker, then you might need to have the second copy in deck. So I would recommend probably playing 2 this format just because of that. Also in the side deck, we can side into something like Book of Eclipse, which is really good, especially because this deck has a really easy Zeus line in the form of any 2 Drytron names. So you can Book Eclipse them, and then you can just summon, your Fafnir attack, and then you can make a Zeus, which is pretty insane. Especially because we're on Perfection. We can play other stuff like Green Light. It's pretty decent. As you can tell, we have the Orange Light in the list. So we have like forms of negates in that way. You could also play, throwback to last time I did some profiles. We have Super Quantum White Layer. You could discard this to search for Fairy Alphen. I'm proud of myself. I was like the first one to figure this out. So I think that it's a really cool idea, especially because you could just send it off Beatrice. Like if you have a Beatrice line where you need to get access into your Drytron names with just like a Zeta Ben 10 line, you can go into Beatrice, and then on the follow-up, like on your opponent's turn, you can use it to send the White Layer, which gives you Alpha into your hand. So you just get a free +1 off of it. So it could be cool, although it is kind of bricky, so I did put it in the side deck, but I did want to mention it because obviously they're fairies, light fairies, mind you, so you could search them off of Ben 10, and it just gives you 2 negates, so it's kind of like leave at home. But yeah, there is also a line where if you put the Alphen in your deck, you could use like any Drytron name plus any Ben 10, especially like a bad one like Ben 10 beta. then you can get into a Zeus line without, you know, even though your hand is like really bad with just like a beta Ben 10, you know, you can still have a Zeus line in the form of Alpha because you can search it and normal it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I think that that's really about it as far as that goes. One other thing I did want to mention, we're also on Dynamon because this card is just insane. Even if we're not playing Chaos Max, like this card is just like really good just because you can just like target card on the field and one in the grave and just like shuffle them. So it's like pretty good. It might even replace the Phoenix, although I do like Phoenix being able to discard cards out of your hand to get some form of advantage, especially for on the Ishizu cards. Speaking of discarding cards out of your hand, the one other card you might notice in the extra deck that's a little bit different is Barricade Board Blocker. The thought process is if you have a really bad hand, like open 2 Drytron names, and like a random like Kalbeck Agito or something like that, you can summon the Drytron name, even if it's like the same one, like double alpha. You can summon them both, or you can go like Nova, or not Nova. I'm trying to think of the line. The idea is that you just have like any way to get 2 monsters on the field and you're kind of bricked. You can go into Barricade Board Blocker and you can discard Kalbeck and Agito, and then you can mill 5 from both players' decks. That's the idea of playing Barricade Board Blocker. It's probably not great. You probably could just replace this with anything else. But do remember, if you are playing Barricade Board Blocker, you have to be playing Fafnir in your list. Otherwise, it's an illegal activation. So that's one thing you have to know about that. But yeah, that's really about it for this list. If you guys have suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below because I'm still trying to build this deck, trying to figure out what the best variant of this deck is. I have no idea where to take this deck. I think that this has a really good contender for the next format, but I think that there are a couple of other options, which you'll be seeing later on in this week. With that said, thank you guys for watching. And one other thing before I let you guys go, I do have channel memberships now. So if you do want to, you can hit the join button right next to the subscribe and you can join the channel. So yeah, that's really about it. I will see you guys tomorrow for another profile.